What's up, everyone? Sebastian Castillo here. Beautiful evening in Warsaw, Poland. You can see the river right behind me. You can see a bunch of people walking, enjoying the boardwalk. So, I want to make a quick video to talk about something that I thought about many times in the past, but in 2025 it's more relevant than ever. Okay, let me get positioned here. See, a lot of you who watch this channel are good people, nice people, polite people. You don't like stepping on toes. You don't like to insult anyone. You don't want to play manipulative power games, especially with people who you're close to. You know, what kind of a relationship is that? Either with a girlfriend, a spouse, or a male friend, a family member. If you constantly feel like you're walking on eggshells, if you feel like you need to use manipulation tactics to hold frame and make sure you control the relationship, if you ask me, that's just weird. But believe it or not, there's a lot of people who live like that. Okay? If you are a person like I just described, right? You're a good person, you keep to yourself, you work hard, you seek to educate yourself and go out and explore and enjoy life without having to infringe on anyone. You might make the mistake of thinking that everyone is like this, especially if you are used to living in a high-trust society, especially if you come from a good home, like I do. Objectively, my parents are still together after 30 years. Never was abused. We never, we weren't rich, but we never lacked for money. We were able to take trips, owned a home, all that kind of stuff. And so you might have lived a very insulated lifestyle. You might have been trapped in a bit of a bubble. Even if you go abroad, the fact that you're a Westerner and you have money means that you're going to be protected from seeing the uglier side of most places. Right? Again, this is gorgeous. This is nice. I'm in the capital here. There's a lot of Poles who don't make very much money at all, and they can barely afford to leave their little town or their city in another part of the country, let alone go to a different neighboring European country, even though it's much easier for them to do that than it is for a Canadian to go visit a European country. So don't make the mistake of thinking that everyone else out there is honorable and righteous and industrious and looking to improve upon themselves, improve upon the community, any of that. The reality is most people are so lazy, especially nowadays. Most people are entitled. Maybe not most, but there are people like that. Just because you're not encountering them doesn't mean they're not out there. If you live a lifestyle like I do as well, right? Digital nomad, if you want to call it that. Working remote. Just not having to deal with co-workers in person, in an office, in a confined space every single day. People that you're forced to work with and tolerate. Then your perception of how most people are will probably be warped. But if you can remember back when maybe you worked a job in retail or fast food. My first official job was working at McDonald's. And I can tell you, I could not stand the vast majority of the people there. They were low IQ. They were NPCs, or whatever you want to call it that. And I understand. Got the wind blowing again. I understand some people might criticize me calling them that. And ironically enough, sometimes the people who criticize others and call them NPCs are quite NPC-ish themselves, right? And that doesn't mean I wasn't an NPC to an extent. We kind of all are, depending on what level we're at. It doesn't all have to do with money. But for the sake of me making this point, when I say that these people were like that, it means they listen to the radio. Their conversations involve talking about the latest show or a concert or some kind of social media celebrity scandal. It never revolved around ideas or improving their lot in life or going out to just or exploring other people's perspectives and feelings about things. Again, you might be like that, but a lot of people aren't. A lot of people don't care about these things. A lot of people, they have nothing else to talk about. And on top of that, a lot of people's relationships, especially when they hit adulthood, tend to be formed around vices, drinking buddies, smoking buddies. And you'll find, I personally have some experience with this. When I was in China, a lot of the people I hung out with, it was typically when we were drinking. And everyone's fun when they're drunk. But the same people, sober, I couldn't stand them. They were boring. They had nothing to talk about, really. So I had to get tipsy or drunk in order to actually tolerate those people. Needless to say, I eventually grew up and I stopped hanging out with them. So don't make the mistake, again, I'll reiterate the message, don't make the mistake of thinking that everyone out there is a sophisticated scholar. There's a lot of people who, once they graduate from high school, they never crack open a book. Or at least anything besides a mass market paperback or something that they could easily pick up at Costco. You've got a lot of pseudo-intellectuals, people who read The 48 Laws of Power, for example, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and they think they've uncovered some incredible secret about understanding human nature and power dynamics and communication. It is a symptom of the times. It's indicative of this, read one book and become an expert mentality that's really touted out there. But listen, guys, and I made this mistake too. Again, I'm not saying I'm an exception here. It's just I feel like I woke up and I understood these things a little earlier. It often takes a long time. It takes years. It takes a lot of reading, a lot of books, a lot of coaching, typically some degree of money and access to experts and mentors for you to gain expertise and skill that is truly formidable and is worth money on the market for other people to pay you to learn from you. It's not always just read one book, take one course. There are some things that you can do that with and you can get started making money with, right? Sales can be one of them. Sales is something that my mentor JD often says you can learn sales in 2 weeks, but it takes a lifetime to really master it, or at least a decade or so, I would argue. So the main point behind this video, firstly, is again, don't make the mistake of thinking that so many other people out there, high IQ, high functioning. A lot of people can't even be bothered to make their bed or keep their personal space clean. For example, I remember back in high school, and this is quite funny, people have this impression that women tend to be cleaner than men, which is absolutely not true either. I've known plenty of men, including myself, who run a very tight ship, right? As soon as you do the dish, as soon as you eat something at home, the dishes are done and they're drying. As soon as you get home after the gym, your sweaty clothing is taken off and put in the laundry hamper, or you put it in the laundry bin, what have you. I remember in high school there were these girls, these twins, who I think their family gave them a Mazda 3 or something for their graduation present. And sometimes I would get picked up by them, and I would be riding with other friends as well. And these girls, their car was filthy, right? And I would bug them about it too. I would say, hey, isn't it funny? I'd point out the hypocrisy. And they'd get mad, right? They'd get mad and say, oh, well, I just been so busy or something like that, right? They'd try to deflect it or make some lame excuse. Oftentimes you will think that what you're doing, the level that you've reached financially, mentally, in terms of your emotional maturity, isn't really that high and that you have so much more to do, which you probably do. No one's perfect. But at the same time, if you were to go out, if you already work with the public to some extent, right? If you work in retail, if you are forced to interact with so-called regular people on a daily basis, it's not hard to see that most people are pretty down bad. Most people have horrible financial management skills. They don't know the first thing about maintaining a healthy lifestyle and eating right and exercising. A lot of people don't know how to dress well. They don't know how to carry themselves professionally. So don't discredit yourself. And one final note to make about all of this too is that you deserve to be proud of who you are and what you've done. And you might feel, because of how you're raised or because of some life experiences that you had, that it's better to be humble and that people should kind of dull their light a little bit, dim their light, and that you shouldn't outshine people. I would say now, in 2025, if you're a man, you absolutely need to take every single advantage that you can and milk it. And that means, in some cases, coming across as arrogant, being seen as a douchebag, or people just thinking you're extremely cocky. You know what? It's a lot better to lean in towards that side of things than it is to just be super humble and meek and withdraw into your shell, not rattle the boat. Because you have to be seen if you want opportunities, if you want to make money, if you want to meet the best girls. You have to be seen. You have to kick up a bit of a storm. Otherwise, you're just going to be lost in the river with all the rest of them. All the other NPCs, all the other guys who, they don't even have the option of being cocky or arrogant because they have nothing. Weird bug is. They don't have the. It's not justified for them to act arrogant or be proud of anything. They haven't done anything, right? But at least you do. If you've been in the gym, if you've made some money on your own, if you learn to dress, if you can speak effectively and clearly and professionally, you might think that none of these things are really worth it. But in retrospect, and again in comparison, they absolutely are. You are a rare gem. And the more you continue to work on these things, the more you continue to expand your mind and learn and endeavor to read and even invest money into your further education by paying for coaching, listening to experts, getting into groups, meeting with guys who might be a lot further ahead of you, and you may even feel kind of inadequate standing next to them. You might even feel like, dang, this guy's way further ahead of me. What the hell have I been doing? That's a good thing. That's a good thing. It prevents you from being too arrogant. It checks you and makes sure that you kind of know where you stand. So, that's it for today, guys. I hope you understand the message, and I hope it helps you lift your head up a little higher next time you're out and about.